there, my name is Allison Jones, and for my GenEd 1038 Sleep Capstone presentation, I chose the topic of high school students. Beginning at the onset of puberty, high school students undergo a phase shift in their circadian rhythm, meaning that they have later sleep and wake times. This phase shift conflicts with many American school start times, and ultimately results in sleep deprivation and other negative effects. Sleep is vital to human health. However, the majority of high school students are not obtaining the recommended amount of sleep per day, which is 8.5 to 9.5 hours. In fact, a significant number of high school students around the world are experiencing inadequate sleep each year. For instance, in the US, 69% of high school students slept less than 8 hours per school night. In South Korea, 84% slept less than 7 hours per school night, and in Norway, 86% slept less than 8 hours per school night. In the 1980s and 1990s, medical researchers identified a shift in the circadian rhythm occurring at the onset of puberty. We learned in class on September 13th in Lecture 2 that chronotype delay occurs during adolescence, and this is supported by the research conducted in the 80s and 90s. The circadian rhythm shift results in moving sleep and awakening times later, so that the average high school student has difficulty falling asleep before 11 p.m. and awakening before 8 a.m. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommended in a policy statement that high school start times should be at or after 8:30 a.m. However, national surveys in 2011 and 2018 revealed that 83 to 86% of U.S. high schools start before 8:30 a.m. We learned in class on September 20th in Lecture 3 that sleep deprivation impairs multiple brain functions and is associated with unsafe behaviors. Consequences of sleep deprivation in high school students include the following: physical consequences like obesity, intellectual ones like lower GPA, emotional ones like anxiety and depression, and lastly behavioral ones like increased risks of motor vehicle crashes, as well as sports and occupational injuries. Sleep deprivation costs the U.S. economy $411 billion annually. Drowsy driving, of which adolescents ages 25 and under account for 50% of, costs the U.S. economy $109 billion annually, not including property damage. Sleep deprivation affects the majority of U.S. high school students, and it's associated with the following behavior risks: drug use, fighting, and motor vehicle accidents. A 3-year multi-state study of over 9,000 students in 8 high schools across Minnesota, Colorado, and Wyoming showed that delaying high school start times results in a significant increase in the GPA of core subjects, as well as a 70% decrease in teenage car accidents. Barriers to implementing later high school start times include the following: costs of modifying transportation, conflicts with coordinating interscholastic activities, childcare for younger siblings, and after-school employment for teenagers. The biggest barrier would be lack of knowledge among stakeholders, because as noted in the policy statement published by the American Academy of Pediatrics, 71% of parents believed that their high school student had sufficient sleep. I propose to create a campaign to educate high school communities about high school students' sleep requirements and to assist those communities in changing their high school start times to 8:30 a.m. or later. In terms of planning, which should take about 1 month, I suggest to create a program involving handouts, brochures, videos, lectures, and community meetings to educate stakeholders about high school students' need for having adequate sleep. Then to create a measurement system to track important variables such as GPA, attendance, and student emotions. And lastly, to identify local stakeholders ranging from students to parents to school officials, etc. In terms of implementation, which should take about 12 months, I suggest to contact stakeholders via emails and community meetings to introduce them to the idea of moving high school start times to 8:30 a.m. or later. Then to meet with those stakeholders to review solutions to logistical challenges, including transportation, childcare, and interscholastic activities. In terms of tracking, which should take about 1 to 3 years, I suggest to randomly select involved schools to monitor important variables pre- and post-implementation. Then to send in annual surveys to those involved schools in order to assess the efficacy of the campaign, and lastly to review relevant databases such as that of the DMV to determine how the solution affected important variables such as teenage-related motor vehicle accidents. There are many barriers to changing high school start times, including the cost of transportation and childcare, as well as conflict with interscholastic competitions. However, the most significant barrier is the lack of knowledge, since the majority of stakeholders, including parents, think that high school students are sleeping enough, even though data indicates otherwise. The response to a lack of knowledge is educating stakeholders about adolescent sleep requirements and how the wide-ranging benefits of adequate sleep among high school students is critical to improving adolescent health, productivity, and overall quality of life. Logistical challenges such as reorganizing transportation, childcare, and interscholastic competitions have been solved by a number of high schools across the U.S. Efforts to enhance high school students' sleep have been shown to improve physical, intellectual, emotional, and behavioral characteristics. If my initiative is successful, then it could be broadened to include all U.S. high schools, which would likely have a profound effect on increasing productivity, improving health, decreasing motor vehicle accidents, and reducing the enormous costs of negative behavior among adolescents. Lastly, here is my bibliography. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation.